To all who come to this happy podcast, welcome. Welcome to This Happy Place, a Disney podcast. I am Will, and this episode we're going to talk about all things Star Wars Celebration. Now, what is Star Wars Celebration? Well, you might have heard of things like Comic-Con, a convention where people come together and celebrate all things pop culture from all different fandoms. You could be talking about Harry Potter. You could be talking about Dungeons and Dragons, even like Godzilla and King Kong. But Star Wars Celebration is like Comic-Con, but exclusively for Star Wars. And Star Wars Celebration 2025 that happened over the weekend in Japan has ended, and with the celebration, there were quite a bit of announcements that got fans excited, some more exciting than others, but let's get into the things that I feel like were the biggest announcements of the weekend. The first thing we'll discuss is Ahsoka Season 2, and I'm honestly a little surprised we are getting Ahsoka Season 2. I feel like the reception to Season 1 was lukewarm at best, and the ratings per episode declined from week to week. It started off strong because people were excited, and it may have ended on a higher peak because the character Ezra was brought back, but I just can't help but feel confused as to Ahsoka getting picked up for a Season 2, but I just can't help but feel that the creator of the series and the Ahsoka character, Dave Filoni, who has also done a lot of really big things with Star Wars, like the Clone Wars show and Star Wars Rebels, just is having a hard time of letting the character of Ahsoka go. I mean, he created Ahsoka, and Ahsoka is a fan favorite character, so I can't blame him too much, but I'm just getting a little tired of everything feeling like it connects to Star Wars The Clone Wars animated show or Star Wars The Rebels in some way. I want Star Wars projects to expand the galaxy, not make it feel like the galaxy is shrinking by connecting everything to everything. I just want something new and something fresh. Ahsoka Season 1 was essentially a new season of Star Wars Rebels, and that was okay, but the story was just extremely not interesting because it felt like they created the show to create another season of Star Wars Rebels, but there wasn't actually any story to it. They just wanted an excuse to bring the characters from Star Wars Rebels into live action. I'm not saying that Season 2 can't improve on Season 1. I'm just saying that there is a lot to improve on. One of the highlights for me in the first season of Ahsoka was the character of Baylan Skoll, who was played by Ray Stevenson. Stevenson unfortunately passed away not too long ago, and his character was recast with actor Rory McCann, who you might know and some people might know as the Hound from Game of Thrones. We got our first look at McCann as Baylan, and it's just a first look, so there isn't much you can say about it. He looks like the character, and I'm sure he will do great in the role. And the other announcement I thought was a given, and it might have been announced previously, that I just didn't see it, but I think it was just kind of assumed. But Hayden Christensen is coming back to play Anakin in the show. I do love seeing him get the love and respect for his role. And ultimately, I feel like it wasn't him that made like Attack of the Clones bad. He had rough material to work with, but when it got to a Revenge of the Sith, where I feel like the writing and the story improved, he really does shine as that character. We also got a little bit more detail on some story points that are coming in the upcoming season. Fan favorite characters are going to have a bigger role, which was kind of obvious if you ask me. Ezra, Zeb, and Chopper from Rebels will be back. And again, one of my complaints is the seemingly inability to do anything that doesn't involve those characters. But we'll see how it goes. I'm going to go into it expecting things to be great like I do with everything. But it was also said that Admiral Ackbar will have a big part of the series. And if you don't know who Admiral Ackbar is, he is the general in Return of the Jedi who says the infamous line, "It's a trap!" And he will apparently go head-to-head against Grand Admiral Thrawn, whatever head-to-head means. because I'm just curious to see what they're going to do with that, because I just don't believe anyone can come close to battling strategically, mindly, if that's a word, but like Thrawn's mind is just so superior that I don't see anyone standing a chance against him. But maybe we'll just get more respect for Akbar in this process of Ahsoka Season 2. There was also moving on, there's also footage of the next Star Wars movie to be released, which is The Mandalorian and Grogu. The trailer they showed hasn't been released to the public yet, and that makes sense since the movie comes out in over a year on May 22nd, 2026. Apparently, the standout moment of this trailer is when Mando gets into an AT-AT and takes out an entire crew by himself. I'm sure the action looked great, but since I haven't seen it, I can't speak much to it. Now, moving on to the announcement that made me the most excited was for a new Star Wars movie coming out in May of 2027, which is just like 2 years away, meaning that this movie is starting production in the fall of this year. This movie is being directed by Shawn Levy, who recently directed the billion-dollar film Deadpool and Wolverine, as well as Free Guy and that Netflix movie The Adam Project. He also was a key player in the development of Stranger Things, and I don't think Shawn Levy has done a bad movie. I love Night at the Museum, which I believe he did as well, and all of his movies are just incredibly fun and charming. But it was reported a little bit ago, but never confirmed, by Disney that Ryan Gosling was going to be the star of this movie. It is now confirmed that he will star as the main character, but we also have a title for this movie, which is Star Wars Starfighter. We don't know much about what this movie is going to be about. We only know that it's going to be taking place 5 years after The Rise of Skywalker, and it is going to be filled with original characters and places that we have never seen before. That was the part that got me really excited, because I love it when Star Wars expands its galaxy rather than doing things that makes the galaxy feel smaller. A great example of this recently is Skeleton Crew. That show was so delightful and so fun, and it didn't connect to anything that we have seen before. I'm excited for a breath of fresh air when it comes to an original Star Wars movie. There was also a brand new animated show announced as well, called Maul Shadow Lord, and in case you couldn't tell, the main character of the show is going to be Darth Maul. And Sam Witwer, who has done the voice of Darth Maul in the other animated shows, is returning to the role. This series is going to cover Maul's time after the events of the Clone Wars, and if you don't remember, in the movie Solo, Maul is revealed to be a leader of a crime syndicate. This show is supposedly going to be about Maul's time building that crime syndicate on the outer rim of the galaxy. It is coming to Disney Plus 2026. This is going to be an animated show, and I do kind of wish that it was going to be a live action show, because even though the Acolyte TV show wasn't very good, the best parts about that show were definitely the lightsaber fight scenes, and it just would have been really cool to see Darth Maul live action again, since after The Phantom Menace, we've only seen him in the animated form. Star Wars Visions is an anthology series on Disney Plus, where there are several animation studios that animate their own Star Wars story. Since they are all different studios, each episode has its own unique feel and tone to it. It was announced that the third season of Visions will be released on October 29th of this year. There is also going to be a spin-off series called The Ninth Jedi that will expand on the story from the 5th episode of Season 1. I think it's cool that one of these shorts that was meant to be a one-off was received so well they decided to make a story of it, and hopefully this will also be another original Star Wars thing that it feels like expands the galaxy. The last major update doesn't actually have to do with movies or TV, but rather the theme parks. When Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, or as most people call it, Star Wars Land, was first announced, one of the rides was Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. With this ride, it was said that there were going to be multiple stories, kind of like Star Tours, but ever since it opened, there has only really been one story, which has led to a lot of people to treat Smuggler's Run as an attraction that is not a must-do every visit, and I feel like the novelty of the ride ran out surprisingly quick. Well, we finally got news on those added scenes and a story. Coinciding with the release of The Mandalorian and Grogu in 2026, The Mandalorian and Grogu will also be showing up on Smuggler's Run. There is no exact details on what this will look like, but we do have a brief description on what the story will be. This is a quote, Hondo Ohnaka catches wind of a deal on Tatooine between ex-Imperial officers and pirates, setting the stage for a high-stakes chase across the galaxy. Guests will team up with Mando and Grogu to track them down and claim a bounty in a dynamic, galaxy-spanning adventure. Perhaps the biggest improvement to this ride will be to the role of the engineers. For those of you who don't know, on the ride there are 3 roles, each having 2 members. So you have like 2 pilots, 2 gunners, and 2 engineers. The engineers is widely considered to be the worst role, or maybe just the least exciting, since it's just a button smashing, and to do good at your role and to perform well, you can't really look at the screen in front of you, and you don't really feel a part of the story. Well, with this update coming next year, it seems like engineers will have an increased role to take care of Grogu during the ride. I'm not really sure what that is going to look like, but I'm excited to find out. They will also be in charge of choosing which planet to go to. They'll have the opportunity to go to Bespin, the Death Star wreckage above Endor, and Coruscant, and I'm excited for this ride to finally deliver on its original promise. And that is the Star Wars Celebration recap. The next Star Wars Celebration will be in 2027 in Los Angeles, and will celebrate Star Wars' 50th anniversary. And who knows, Los Angeles is a lot easier for me to get to than Japan, so maybe I will be there. But thank you for listening to this episode of This Happy Place, a Disney podcast. And remember, there is a great big beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day.